You spent 12 years in school learning to read, write, solve for X, and name every bone in the human body. Not one teacher ever explained how a tax bracket works, why your savings account is quietly losing value every year, or what compound interest could do for you if you started at 22. That wasn't an accident. There was a curriculum. And money wasn't in it. I'm Penny, and for a long time, I did everything right by the textbook. I stayed out of trouble, got decent grades, and landed a job. Yet, I still spent my late 20s genuinely confused about why I had nothing to show for it. If you feel that same frustration, you aren't alone. The gap between what Americans earn and what they actually keep has never been wider. The people widening that gap are counting on you never figuring out why. It is time to stop playing a game where you don't know the rules. By the end of this video, I am going to give you 7 specific frameworks the financial system never handed you. I'll also give you a clear action plan to start this week. If you're someone who would rather understand the game than keep losing it, hit subscribe. Every video on this channel is built exactly for that. Let's look at the truths they kept from you. Most people look at their bank accounts and feel a deep sense of shame. They assume their financial struggle is a personal failure. They tell themselves it is a discipline problem, a math problem, or simply a lack of willpower. But I want to be direct with you. That is a false lens. You are blaming yourself for not knowing a language. You were never taught to speak. The truth is that the American school system was not designed to make you wealthy. To understand why, we have to look back at the Industrial Revolution. During that time, the school curriculum was standardized to produce reliable workers. The goal was to create people who could follow instructions, show up on time, and perform tasks for someone else's company. It was built to create employees, not owners. Because of this history, personal finance has never been a federally mandated subject in the United States. Even today, the map of financial literacy is a mess. As of early 2024, only 25 states require students to take a personal finance course to graduate high school. That means half the country is being sent into the real world without a single lesson on how to manage the money they earn. Your confusion about money isn't a character flaw. It is the expected result of a system that was never designed to produce financially independent people. You weren't bad at money. You were just given a toolkit for a job that doesn't exist anymore. Once you realize that your lack of knowledge was by design, you can stop feeling guilty and start getting smart. The system left out the very things that allow families to build real freedom. We are going to fix that right now by looking at the 7 truths that change everything. It all starts with the way we think about the very first dollar we earn. The first truth you need to understand is that paying yourself last is a poverty mindset in a polite disguise. Most people are taught to spend their money on bills, groceries, and fun first, and then save whatever is left at the end of the month. The deeper truth is that there is never anything left. The system is designed to make sure of that. If you wait until the end of the month, your expenses will always expand to fill up every dollar you have. Right now, the average American only saves about 3.6% of their income. Compare that to self-made millionaires, who usually save 20% to 30% of their pay during the years they were building their wealth. The secret isn't more willpower. It is automation. When I started moving just 5% of my paycheck to a separate account before I touched a single cent, something strange happened. I didn't feel any poorer. Within 90 days, my brain simply reorganized my spending around what was left. This is called paying yourself first. And it is the one habit that separates people who just work for money from people who keep it. But saving more only matters if the money you save is actually growing. This leads us to truth number 2. Your savings account is a wealth illusion. We are told that keeping money in a standard savings account is the responsible, safe thing to do. However, if your account earns 0.5% interest, while the cost of living inflation goes up by 3%, you are actually losing 2.5% of your spending power every single year. You are getting safe right into being broke. Think about it this way. If you put $10,000 into a basic savings account today, in 10 years you might have $10,501. That looks like a gain. But because of inflation, that money will only buy what $700-800 buys today. You effectively lost over $2,200 just by playing it safe. Inflation is an invisible tax on cash that is sitting still. Schools taught you that saving is a virtue, but they never explained that where you put that money determines if it grows or evaporates. Now, you might be thinking that the answer is simply to invest. But most people never start because they feel they don't have enough money to make a difference. That is because nobody ever explained the most powerful variable in the world. Truth number 3 is about to change how you look at your calendar and your bank account. That brings us to truth number 3. Time is worth more than money, and you are already spending it. Most people think you need a huge pile of cash to begin investing. The truth is that time in the market is the variable that beats everything else. Starting just 10 years earlier is worth more than doubling the amount of money you put in later. For example, if you invest $200 a month starting at age 25 with an 8% return, you would have about $702,000 by age 65. If you wait until age 35 to start with that same $200 a month, you end up with only $298,000. That $404,000 difference is the literal cost of waiting 10 years. Compound interest grows like a snowball. The growth in the final years is huge, but it only happens if you start the ball rolling early. Every year you delay isn't just a delay of $200. It's a delay of the thousands of dollars that $200 would have turned into. So why doesn't everyone start at 22? Because most people spend their youth trying to manage something they were never taught to understand: debt. This is truth number 4. Your credit score is not a wealth score. It's a debt score. We are taught that a high credit score means you are financially healthy. In reality, a credit score only measures how well you pay back money you borrowed. It rewards you for borrowing and punishes you for paying with cash. It measures your value to the bank, not your bank balance. The average American carries $6,329 in credit card debt. At a 24% interest rate, that is about $500 a year paid to a lender, just for the privilege of buying things they couldn't afford yet. The system was built to keep you in a cycle of borrowing and repaying, while the banks extract interest. Schools taught credit as a tool, but they didn't teach you who really profits from that tool. But here is what makes the debt conversation even more complicated. Not all debt works the same way, and there is a secret about how the system views your income. Truth number 5. The tax code is not neutral. It was written for business owners. Most people assume everyone pays taxes the same way. You work hard, you earn money, and you pay your share. But employees pay taxes first and spend what is left. Business owners spend money on their business first and only pay taxes on what is left. The tax code is over 70,000 pages long, and most of it is filled with deductions and strategies that benefit people who own things rather than people who work for an hourly wage. For instance, an employee earning $80,000 might only take home $58,000 after all taxes are taken out. A business owner earning that same $80,000 can deduct things like a home office, equipment, or travel. They might reduce their taxable income by $20,000 before the government ever touches it. Schools teach you how to file a tax return, but they don't teach tax strategy, because that knowledge is meant for owners, not employees. Hey, pause for a second. Real question. Which of these 5 truths genuinely surprised you? Drop it in the comments. I read them, and I want to know which one landed hardest. Also, if this is the kind of content you've been looking for, the subscribe button is right there. Every video on this channel is built to give you frameworks, not just feelings. Okay, Back to it. Truth number 6. Assets and liabilities are not what you were taught. In school, you might have heard that a house is your biggest asset. In the real world, an asset is something that puts money into your pocket without you having to work for it. A liability is something that takes money out. Most of what we call assets, the house we live in, the car we drive, the gadgets we buy, are actually liabilities. They cost us money every month. The average American home costs between $50,000 and $3,000 a month in mortgage, taxes, and repairs. A small rental property that sends you $500 a month after all costs is a real asset. It's not as flashy as a big house, but it adds to your wealth instead of draining it. Schools taught you the words, but they didn't teach you the right question. Does this thing pay me, or do I pay for it? Finally, truth number 7. Wealth is built in the gap, not in the income. We are taught that to get rich, we just need to earn more money. The deeper truth is that wealth has very little to do with how much you make. It is about the gap, the space between what you earn and what you spend. You can earn $150,000 a year and have a net worth of zero if you spend it all. You can earn $52,000 and build a massive fortune if you protect the gap. Look at the numbers. A family earning $65,000 that saves 20% and invests it can build $1.2 million over 30 years. A family earning $110,000 that only saves 4% will only have $430,000 in that same time. The lower earner wins by $770,000 because they protected the gap. Your income is your ceiling, but the gap is your trajectory. Schools taught you how to increase your income, but they never taught you to protect the gap. Because a person who spends everything is much more useful to the economy than a person who invests for their own freedom. When you look at these 7 truths all at once, you might start to see a hidden pattern. There was always just one lesson, and it was never really about the money. Every truth I just shared is actually a variation of the same big idea. The financial system was built to take value away from people who don't understand how it works. Think of the system like a giant machine, designed to pull money out of your pocket at every possible turn. This is called extraction. Every single truth represents a point where the machine tries to grab a piece of your hard work. It happens when you have a low savings rate, or when your cash sits idle and loses value to inflation. It happens when you start investing too late, or when you focus on a debt score instead of a wealth score. It happens through your tax bracket, the liabilities you mistake for assets, and your inability to protect the gap. If you don't know the rules, the machine just keeps spinning, taking a little bit more every single day. Most people miss this because each truth looks like a separate financial tip. They might watch a video like this and take notes on 7 individual habits, thinking they are just small chores to do. But the people who actually change their lives are the ones who see that the system is not random. It is very organized. Because the system is coherent, your response to it must be just as organized. You cannot fight a machine with random guesses. You need a plan that matches the scale of the game. When you look through this new lens, everything becomes clear. You pay yourself first to protect the gap. You invest instead of just saving to make that gap grow. You start now because time multiplies the gap. You escape the debt cycle because interest payments collapse the gap. You learn the tax code to reduce what the system takes from your gap. You build real assets to widen the gap. Finally, you guard that margin at every income level because the gap is the entire game. The schools didn't fail you by accident. They failed you in a very specific direction. Now you know which direction to walk in instead. I know that hearing all of this at once can feel like a lot. You might want to change everything about your life right now, but I want to be honest with you. You cannot implement all 7 of these truths this week. In fact, if you try to do everything at once, you will likely end up doing none of them. real change doesn't happen in a big explosion. It happens in small, smart steps. The first and most important action you can take today is to open a separate savings account. Do not open it at the bank you use for your daily spending. You want this money to be out of sight and out of mind. Once that account is open, set up an automatic transfer. Pick a percentage you can handle, even if it is only 3%. Schedule it to move the very morning after your next paycheck hits your main account. The percentage isn't the point right now. The automation is the habit. If your brain never sees that money is available, you will never miss it. Next, I want you to pull up your bank statement from last month and grab a pen. Go through every line and add up 2 things. Every recurring subscription you didn't use, and every interest payment you made on debt. Write that total number down in big letters. That number is the current cost of your gap. It is the amount of your hard-earned money that the system is successfully extracting from you every single month. Seeing that number on paper makes the problem real, and once you can see it, you can fix it. Finally, I want you to go online and find a compound interest calculator for your state. Plug in some simple numbers. $100 a month, an 8% return, and 30 years. Look at the total. Then, change the start date to just 5 years later, and look at the total again. When you see how much money disappears just by waiting 60 months, something will click in your mind. You will not need anyone to motivate you after you see that difference. If you only do one thing this week, just one, set up that automatic transfer. Everything else we talked about today is downstream of that one habit. Once you protect the first few dollars of your paycheck, you have officially stopped being a passenger in the system and started becoming the driver. Before you go, I have a real question for you. Which of these 7 truths hit you the hardest? Tell me in the comments below. Specifically, I want to know which one made you think of a financial decision you've already made in the past. I read your stories, and I want to hear how these ideas land for you. If you want to keep going deeper into how this system actually works, and more importantly, how you can work around it, make sure to subscribe. This channel exists for exactly this conversation, and I want to make sure you have the tools to keep building. I want to leave you with a final thought. You didn't fail personal finance. Personal finance was never taught to you. There is a huge difference between being incapable and being uninformed. Understanding that your past struggles were the result of a missing education changes everything about what your next decision actually is. You aren't behind. You are just starting with the right map now. The research is done. The information is right here in front of you. The only remaining question is whether you treat this video as just something interesting you watched, or as the thing that changes what you do tomorrow morning. I'm Penny, and I'll see you in the next one.